Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Um, I'm Marjorie Vale, Push Director of Outreach. As you all know, we try to do lives that are very informative and just to really help and support the community. Today, we have a very special guest, and we're just really grateful that he was able to join us today, especially since all that has been going on. We have Clayton Anderson, whose wife, Krystal Anderson, earlier this year, unfortunately and sadly, tragically died of sepsis. And September is Sepsis Awareness Month, and we just wanted to have him come on, not only to be able to share his story, his life with Krystal, but also to give us an awareness of what sepsis is and how can we support and help our loved ones to avoid the tragedy that he has experienced. Community, we want to say hello to Clayton. Clayton, hello. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This is an important topic and obviously very important to me and my family.
Absolutely. I know that Crystal Story had garnered a lot of national focus. It was in the news, and I mean that's how I heard about it, watching the news, and it was just really sad. Of course, as a Black woman, honestly, just watching our women just die unnecessarily. It's heartbreaking. It's an epidemic, and we really want to help and help the community to understand about sepsis and how we can avoid or how we can be look out for signs. But before we go into all of that, I know everyone else would want to know just how you and Crystal met. Like, where did you meet? Tell us a little bit about your love story.
Yeah, thank you for asking. I love talking about this part.
Oh,
We we were actually set up at work. I joined a team at work, and she had previously been on that team. And there was a couple matchmakers, I guess, that told me that she was interested in me and told her that I was interested in her. Uh,
okay.
and, and so I did. I was like, oh, okay, well, I'll ask her out for a drink for her birthday. She said no because she had already committed to things.
Okay.
She was a very busy person. Um, but we ended up getting brunch a few days later, and she was a big foodie, and I'm a big foodie, and it was right after the NFL draft, and so we spent the entire brunch talking about food and football, and I was in love after that. So
Aw, I love it. Now, football, because from what I know, Crystal was a football cheerleader. Am I correct?
yeah, she cheered for the Kansas City Chiefs. She's a world champion, Kansas City Chiefs, for 10 years. And then she was also kind of a cheer coach, part of the cheer
Okay.
for another 6 years after that. So she was very, deeply ingrained in professional football.
All right. Oh, so you had a hot mama on your hands. You had a hot lady.
Beauty, brains, and love talking football. So, I mean, she was a unicorn.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Opening the window to your love story with Crystal. What a lot of people may not know is, of course, that what kind of connects us is the fact that Crystal, before Charlotte, was pregnant, and unfortunately had lost the baby. The baby had died. Was stillborn. Is that correct? Am I correct about that?
Yeah, so our first um, stillbirth, our son James was stillborn on November 27th, 2022.
Mm.
That's everybody here knows that's devastating.
Yes.
Um,
Absolutely.
it took some time before we were ready to try again, but we did, and did end up getting pregnant with Charlotte.
Right. Now, Joseph, what did he die in utero or was this during labor?
James, yeah, James
James.
died. we, everything, the pregnancy was pretty normal, just a little constipation here and there, but that's, pretty par for the course. We added some more fiber, taking the prenatals, everything like that. And she was at a Chiefs game, and she called me in the first quarter of the game, so I knew something was up because she was a rule follower, and she wasn't going to be on her phone during the game. And she said, "I'm coming home. I don't feel well. We get the pink folder. I think we need to go to the hospital."
Mm,
So we grabbed the folder and went to the hospital, and we were in the emergency room, kind of getting looked at. And at the time, November 27th, it's flu season. There's still a lot of COVID concerns. Um, but when they went in to kind of check the heartbeat, the lady checking the heartbeat was like, the heartbeat's pretty low. And I could already see and kind of connect the dots that they were picking up Krystal's heartbeat and not James.
mm, yeah.
So we kind of knew, or I started getting a bad feeling that we were going down this path. And when the doctor came in to tell us that we had lost him, she was in labor and
Mm,
gave us right there in the emergency room. So, I mean, got to hold him still,
right,
you know,
right.
but yeah, we lost him.
Yeah. And how many months was Krystal at the time?
She was 20 weeks.
20 weeks. Okay, so it's 20 weeks. Your first child, sadly, was born still. And as someone who knows it all too well, you get the courage to try again, right? And so I'm assuming that you and Krystal actively were trying to have another child after James.
Yeah, we both Krystal and I are planners, uh,
Mm-hmm.
type A people, and we bought the house in the good school district, got married, made sure that the house was equipped for two kids, and we were always planning on all this stuff. And after we lost James, obviously that throws a big uh, curve at you. And Krystal had fibroids, and
Okay.
we didn't think they contributed to James losing James, but our OB wanted to make sure we had the best chance possible. So after James, we actually Krystal had a myomectomy. Um, and because that myomectomy took, they're like, you need to wait 6 months before you try again.
Got it.
That gave us a good buffer to get a lot of therapy, infant loss therapy in.
Mm-hmm.
And we always went together. And, you go down that journey of losing the child, but then, working through all that together. And by the time that we got the clear that we could start trying again physically, we were in a much better mental place that we felt we were ready to try again.
Right. Now, prior to James being born still, um, did your doctor ever talk to you about stillbirth or what could happen during a pregnancy?
You know, we knew what stillbirth was. We both kind of work in
Okay.
healthcare technology field,
Mm-hmm.
um, but you never think it's going to happen to you. And
Right.
Krystal being an older black female, we were more concerned about preeclampsia,
Mm-hmm.
postpartum hemorrhaging.
Mm-hmm.
Krystal was acutely aware of that. She actually has a patent for a digital postpartum hemorrhaging calculator. Um, so so we knew stillbirth was an option, was a path this could have gone down. It never really came up during the entire time of our first pregnancy.
Right. Yeah, we pushes, an organization that brings stillbirth awareness, and many of us, and was founded by lost moms, and none of us, I don't think any of us were told or made aware of stillbirth, because especially for many of us it was our first pregnancy, so it was just kind of like no one wants to talk about it, right? Because I don't know, I think people think it's too taboo or that they don't want to scare you, but no one talks about, like, watch out for these signs. This could be a possibility. which kind of takes you aback when something like this happens, you know. So I'm not surprised you didn't know. Now, you did the work, you went to therapy after losing James, and you got pregnant again. But of course, the journey is a little like has been dampened and tampered with. What was that journey like for the second pregnancy?
The the day we found out we were pregnant was November 26th, 2023. So one day before
Hmm.
his first birthday, and
Right,
we always thought it was kind of his little God wink to us to tell us like, "Don't worry, mom, dad, I got
right.
you." And so that was pretty special. Knowing we felt really elated that day to find out that we were pregnant again, but the pregnancy itself was incredibly anxious.
Mm,
You know, every time she would go to the bathroom, we hold our breath to make sure there's no blood there. Um, and anytime anything was a little bit off, we were so anxious. And you know, if they would have allowed us to be seen at the doctor's office every single day, we would have gone.
mm,
We just and we really wanted to get past. We've almost felt a sigh of relief going to our 20-week appointment because we're like, we got past the mark where we lost James.
right.
Um, and then a week later, like 4 days later, is when everything went south.
Mm. Now, as you stated earlier that Krystal was 40 and she's a black woman. What did she share anything with you about like her concerns as a black woman, you know, giving birth in America, especially since, past several years, you know, black maternal health has been like
Yeah, it's worse.
horrendous. What are the things, some things that she shared with you in terms of her fears?
The big fear, um, you know, it's always being heard,
Mm,
and she was very much a rule follower. She also didn't want to like step on toes,
mm-hmm.
and she didn't want to be identified as the angry black woman.
Mm,
You know, and so because of that, and it's something that you know I think about a lot now. It's like you wish you would have been a little more vocal
mm,
what your needs are, and I think that goes to the importance of you know doulas or somebody that can help advocate for you that also speaks the medical language because it is a separate language.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
We we probably didn't do a good enough job advocating for what our needs were, that we wanted to be seen at least every 2 weeks. Um, you know, we did get an MFN doctor for this pregnancy, but they couldn't see us until week 14. And it's like, we would have really liked you to be involved a lot earlier, at a minimum, just so we can sleep better at night,
right,
because otherwise you don't. The only nights that we were sleeping good were the nights where we had had an appointment, heard the heartbeat, and got the thumbs up that everything still looks good.
right. Now, why 14 weeks? That's not standard of care, right? Or was it that the doctor was backed up that long that they couldn't see you in 14 till 14 weeks?
Yeah, I don't know. We didn't really get a great answer. They probably were backed up. There was always somebody there when we were there. But I also think it was just kind of the practice, the office's practice.
Oh, wow. Because I feel like typically in New York, you're seen by your eighth week, or like 6 to 8 weeks you're seen. 14 weeks is a long time.
Yeah, yeah, we would have loved to be able to be seen at 6 to 8 weeks. You know, it would have been, and that was for MFM. We did have the 8 week appointment with OB,
Mm-hmm.
but you're 8, and then the next time you get seen is 12 weeks,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and you're like, we specifically requested like after losing James, we want to be seen every 2 weeks because
Mm-hmm.
we don't want to go down this path again.
Right. Right. And so I know for me that when I when we lost Alexei, that's our son's name, that was stillborn 20 years ago actually today. And I knew that I could not that I didn't want to see the same doctor, but I couldn't imagine delivering at the same hospital. And so, and she, that's the only hospital she delivered in. So we just kind of like decided to change. What were your reasonings for switching doctors?
We didn't actually switch doctor.
Oh,
We
you
just,
did.
yeah, we just added the MFM into the
Gotcha.
picture.
What is MFM?
Maternal fetal medicine, high risk. Uh,
Gotcha. Gotcha.
and because at this point she's 40 and black, and we had had a previous loss, so like there,
Right.
you don't get much more high risk than that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so getting on, being able to get the MFM doctor as part of our care team, that wasn't a challenge.
Right.
Being seen as often as we wanted to be seen, that was a challenge. And we're not blind to the fact that there's a workforce shortage in this space. It's probably going to get worse. and
Mm-hmm.
and so I think that again goes back to the importance of having somebody that, whether it is a doula or a family member or an auntie or whoever, that can go through this journey with you, that can, I don't know, provide that comfort or that calm or that awareness to say, hey, what are your concerns? Let me help you voice them. Or somebody you can just call when you're like, hey, is this normal?
Right. So that's something that we talk a lot about at Push, that a lot of times we, especially if it's your first, or maybe even sometimes if it's your second, that fear that we have, and you expressed that earlier, of being like too demanding or too needy with our doctors. We're afraid, and therefore sometimes we kind of overlook our own instincts to be compliant. But as you said, when we should really be making noise, or we should have someone by our side that help us to make noise, so that we can avoid like certain tragedies. But I think it's a common thing that people just don't want to like be troublesome.
Right. Yeah. She didn't want to be the angry black woman. And unfortunately, the way that it works in this country, you have to advocate for yourself, because
Hmm.
your care team's not always going to advocate for you.
No, they're not. um as we're speaking, well, one of the comments says that we shouldn't have to advocate like this, but the reality is that we have to. And doctors should have been watching Krystal like a hawk. For someone that had a previous stillbirth, she should have been monitored very closely, and not like and neglected, or seen as someone who's giving birth, pregnant for the first time, because she wasn't someone who was given. Yeah. So and thank you for sharing that. um so you said that it was a few days after 20 weeks, when she was pregnant with Charlotte. What began to happen?
Yeah. So we had noticed Crystal's cervix was shortening at our week 16 appointment, and so we had a cerclage procedure,
Hmm.
a stitch to
Hmm.
get help the cervix get to viability. And and then in week 20, our next appointment, they told us that the cerclage had failed, and they kind of told us our options were to go home, kind of keep our fingers crossed until we could get to week 22, in which case they would admit us to a hospital and put her on bed rest the rest of the time. Um, 4 days later, Krystal was feeling some back pain, like pretty common if you get dehydrated, that you might start having contractions, and that's how they started. So we went into the hospital to get some fluids. Baby looked like Charlotte looked great. Mom was doing well. And they said, instead of sending you home tonight, we're going to keep you overnight, get you some more fluids, and we'll let you be seen on Monday with MFM, and this was Saturday.
Hold on,
And
Clayton. Not to cut you off, but that first time when they said the circlage didn't take right, it didn't. How
right,
did you feel when they sent her back home?
we were so stunned and confused that we didn't know what to do.
Hmm.
So we went home and we're like, this feels weird to be sending us home. Um, and but you're also like, I mean, this is our high risk doctor.
Right,
She should know, like, and so we're like, okay, and you also you want to try to stay positive.
right,
You're like, oh, okay, we just have to get 14 more days, and then we'll be in a hospital for 3 months. Um, and but yeah, there was some unease about us being like, for me, I'm not a nurse,
right,
and I'm like, you're sending me home to be like the caretaker with her.
right.
Um, but we tried to make the best of it and got her all positioned in bed to be as comfortable as possible because we were limiting movement at that point, like not full bed rest, but also not doing the Peloton and yoga and all the other physical activities that she would otherwise do. Um, and so then when we almost had a little bit of fear to go back to the hospital because it's like, well, that's 15 minutes of riding in the car. Is that too much jostling around?
Right.
But we went back and for that on that Saturday, and everything looked okay as of like 5:30 that night. And then when they went to go check the heartbeat again at 8:30 that night, we it wasn't there. We found out we lost Charlotte.
Wow. What was that moment like for you both? 'Cause I know that Krystal was still with us at that time.
Yeah, it was hard. You wonder why like this is happening again. Like what did we did everything that we thought we were supposed to do in the right order. You buy the house in a good school district, you get married, you have a family. That's how it's supposed to go. You think. So we didn't know why we had lost another one, and we were we were very broken up about it. And so we sat and I climbed in the hospital bed with her and we cried for a couple hours, and that's at that point that we were so broken up we didn't realize that Krystal was taking a turn south as well. And a couple hours later, like early hours of Sunday morning, that's when it became clear that Krystal was not doing well. And
Mm.
she
Okay, before we move on to that phase, I just want to take a deep breath because I'm feeling it in my chest, and I can imagine that you're feeling it in your chest. So I just want us both to take a deep breath before we move forward because I know this must be a lot for you, and I'm walking that journey with you as myself, thinking about my own journey. But so I just want to take a deep breath. All right. Okay. All right. So it became clear that Krystal wasn't doing well. What did you see? What did you hear? What did you see? What was happening with her?
Yeah, we didn't. I wasn't paying attention to her. Like, there's a lot of machines going on in that room, and I didn't notice that her blood pressure had dropped. And it wasn't until around 2 in the morning that she started talking about like, hey, my vision's getting a little blurry. Like I'm seeing some spots,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and that's a telltale sign of with sepsis is your temperature, your blood pressure, or things starting to happen with your vision and your mental acuity. Um, and so she started voicing some of that, and then that started getting some of the attention of the care team. And then before too long, they finally confirmed what was going on and that she had sepsis, and it was escalating rapidly.
Okay, so at that point, did you know what sepsis is? And could you explain a little bit for those that are watching? What is sepsis?
Mhm. Um, a common misconception is that sepsis is an infection. It is not. Sepsis
Mm,
is the body's reaction to an infection,
mm,
and so the immune system is taking an extreme response to an infection. And in this case, the infection came from Krystal losing Charlotte. Um, but the big thing with sepsis is you have to identify it immediately.
mm,
It works so fast and so severe that by the time we had identified that it was sepsis with Krystal, she went into the operating room like around like 6:37 in the morning on Sunday, and she came out and she had gone from sepsis to severe sepsis to septic shock.
mm,
That is where you have organ failure. When she came out of the OR when removing Charlotte from her womb, she was on a ventilator. She was on a dialysis machine. She had total lung, liver, and kidney failure, and that's how fast it works. We lost Charlotte at 8:30 on Saturday night, and by 9 a.m. Sunday, Krystal was on all those machines and had total organ failure.
so, oh my gosh, I mean, I can't even imagine you standing there having to watch all of this transpire at the same time. Were you by yourself or were family with you? Like, did you have time to call family?
We called my parents had come in town and they were staying at the house, and we had talked to them about 8 o'clock on Saturday night before we knew we had lost Charlotte, and so we called them at 6 a.m. Say, hey, we lost Charlotte and Krystal's going into surgery and she's not doing very well, and so we called Krystal's parents and they flew in immediately from Texas. It's not a direct flight, so the fact they were able to get here within the same day was incredible. Um, but I was at the hospital by myself until she got out of surgery and was in the ICU, and then my dad came, showed up, and you know
Right,
comforted me and assessed the situation, and just it all happened incredibly fast.
right. Now, so so Crystal basically had got sepsis because she had an infection due to Charlotte passing.
Likely, she had an infection, absolutely, and
Okay.
we assume that it came from Charlotte passing. Yes.
Okay. So she comes out of surgery, and then all of a sudden, it's like downhill from there. She's on a ventilator, she's on dialysis. And how long does she stay with us before
Yeah, so she came
transitions?
out of surgery Sunday morning, and she went in for a second surgery Sunday afternoon, and Sunday night was a little touch and go. She stabilized Monday, and Tuesday we actually started turning a corner. We thought we were doing a lot better. Her labs were trending significantly better in the right direction, um, and so we had a third surgery on Tuesday evening, and surgery was successful. So I sent my parents and I sent her parents home Tuesday night so they could get some sleep while I stayed at the hospital, because we had had a good day. Like, surgery was good. Her condition, her labs were getting better on Tuesday, and then within like 3 hours after surgery, I had to call them back frantically to tell them they needed to come back to the hospital right now because we'd taken a very bad turn for the worse. And I made that phone call at 12:55 a.m. Wednesday morning, and she coded at 12:58 the first time.
Hmm.
They were able to save her that first time, which was, wonderful because it gave time for her parents and my parents to show up. But she coded two more times and she passed away early hours of Wednesday morning.
Were you were you there with her? Were you able to speak with her before the last time?
Yeah, I mean, she didn't wake up after the first surgery. Um, and you play the wedding song and you talk to her and you hope that she's hearing all of it. Um, but I was in the room when she coded the first time, and yeah, I was there the whole time.
I just want to take another pause. Just give you a moment, give me a moment. I think what makes me angry is I'm reading a comment um, by someone who's watching Erica Bailey, and she says the disparity in the frequency and quality of care Krystal received is staggering. As a white mom in the same town who was receiving care for Pal, I had no problem getting appointments every 2 weeks.
I know Erica; she's incredibly sweet, and she's a she's a wonderful advocate for parents after loss.
Yeah. And, as a Black woman, you're middle class, upper middle class, it doesn't matter.
No, it
It
doesn't.
doesn't matter.
No, we don't fit the socioeconomic argument that a lot of people want to make.
Right.
Um, access, you know, hospital is 15 minutes away. We do just fine. We had good health insurance. Krystal was incredibly healthy. Like
Yeah.
I said, teaches 5 yoga classes a week. Was on the Peloton for 45 minutes every day. Ate very little meat. Just incredibly healthy, and it didn't matter.
No, it doesn't matter. And it's it's atrocious. Our healthcare system, the systemic racism in America is atrocious. And honestly, it just despairs me sometimes because I'm like, how many more Black women need to die? Before we see that something needs to happen, you know, something, because this could have been prevented. Is that how you feel? Do you feel like it could have been prevented?
There's a lot of what ifs. I ask myself, what if we did this? What if we were seen more often? What if we had, what if the sepsis was identified sooner? Like, you never know.
No,
And but you sure ask yourself a lot of those questions.
absolutely.
And I think the big thing there is we want to start with the standards of care always with
Oh,
pregnancy,
mm-hmm.
but every pregnancy is not the same.
No.
They need to be handled according to what the pregnancy requires.
Yeah. um I do want to read some of the comments that are coming through just to like encourage you. Someone said, sending so much love to you, Clayton. I'm just so heartbroken and angry that this happened to your beautiful family. You're so strong, Clayton. She was lucky to have you by her side. And sorry for Charlotte, sorry for Krystal, and sorry for you. I just want to take a moment.
Appreciate all those.
So you're all in the hospital and you just found out that Krystal had transitioned. What was that like for you?
I mean, you go into, I don't know how to explain that. Like you just go into a state, life's never going to be the same.
Right.
And I don't even like, I know what I was doing. I know we were there. I was there like right next to her, holding her for like 3 hours. And then, you eventually do have to let the coroner come and take her. And I don't know, you're in a daze. It's kind of operating on the autopilot for a long time. It was weeks, months.
Yeah.
It's
And it has, mhm.
every day is a roller coaster still. Um,
Yes.
and you have okay days and you have not okay days. There's no such thing as a good day
Right.
anymore. Uh,
No.
but doing the most that you can on those okay days is kind of the goal now. And
Yeah.
the not okay days are pretty brutal.
Yeah. I can't imagine. I mean, first of all, it hasn't been that long since Krystal and Charlotte transitioned, so it's still fresh. And I can imagine. I mean, I after having our loss, I kept waking like it was a dream for me, like, I, and or just like, how am I still alive? Like this, because your heart is so broken, you don't even know how you're able to like take steps every day or breathe every day or you know function every day because the tragedy is so overwhelming. um and I can imagine how it must have been for you to come home to an empty house. Your partner is no longer there, and I'm only saying this so that people can understand. It's like when tragedies happen, people, we don't want people to just be a name. We want people to know the stories, right? Because in knowing the stories, I think can help mobilize. We hope will help mobilize people um, to stand up, right? To advocate for, even if you're not Black, right? We need allies. We need allies to make sure that every Black woman that is pregnant, is having their baby, can both baby and mama goes home safely. It
Yeah.
is not okay that one comes home and the other doesn't.
Yeah, I'm working with a group here in Kansas, and their mission of having mom and baby see day 366,
Yeah,
get to day 366. It it's a good mission. It's the right mission. Mom and baby both need to be there for baby's first birthday.
absolutely. Absolutely. So you've have you've come home and now like you have this, you know, um mission in a sense. Like for you, what is Krystal, James, and Charlotte's legacy for you?
Um, yeah, I think first they're a reminder that, to your point, these are not just statistics.
Right.
That's my wife. That's my son. It's my daughter. It's my whole family. And people need to realize that when they're seeing the statistics, that even one is not okay.
Right.
But as far as their legacy, I think Krystal would want people to live the way that she lived. Um, she was very passionate, very intentional, and she did everything with joy.
Hmm.
How she lived, and if you could do that with sparkles and shine while you did it, like she would want that too.
Right.
But living with joy and being purposeful and intentional about everything you do in life, that's what she would want her legacy to be.
Right. Wow, that's beautiful. And she sounded like a beautiful, beautiful. Not only was she externally beautiful, but how you're describing her, I could tell she was a beautiful person in general. And how lucky that you both had each other for however long that you did. Um, I'm sure you wish you could have grown old together.
we had a lot of plans, but best 8 years of my life.
Absolutely. How can we support you? How can we support you? How can we keep Krystal's legacy going?
Um, yeah, so I think the biggest thing is to keep saying their names. People
Hmm.
need to remember again that these are not statistics. These are real people. These are real families. This
Hmm.
that's the number one thing is just to keep saying their names. And it's not just Krystal. You know, there's a lovely woman down in Georgia who lost her life too.
Yeah.
We need to keep saying her name. We need to keep saying April Thurman's name. Um, I am establishing a foundation in Krystal's honor. It's not done yet. There's a lot of paperwork to do
Hmm.
stuff, but that will be hopefully a way that her legacy carries on forever, at least as long as I'm still alive.
Yes. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to hear. I mean, maybe excited is too big of a word, but I'm happy to hear that that there will be an organization um, dedicated to Crystal's life and her legacy, and hope, and the hope is to help other families, right, be aware that sepsis is a possibility, to really watch our families closely after they have babies, right.
Yeah.
um, I think one of the things that you said is like your vision starts to go off a little bit, like, and I think you said your body temperature, things like that.
Mhm.
I think we have it on the screen: difficulty breathing, dizziness, clammy hands, confusion, rapid heart rate. If you have family members that are pregnant and are going into labor or uh, preterm labor, be on the lookout. Look out for the symptoms of sepsis. Um, because we were unable to save Crystal's life, but maybe we can save another family's life, another mother's life, and that's the goal. And I just want to say thank you so much, Clayton, for telling your story. I I mean, it's unimaginable. Like I said, it hasn't been that long, and the fact that you're able to just keep Krystal and Charlotte and James's memory alive through sharing your story is phenomenal and amazing. And we need to hear it. People need to hear it.
Mhm.
They need to hear it so that we, like I said, make sure those mamas and those babies go home
Yeah.
safely. Yeah. Anything else you would like to close out with before we close out our live?
Um, there's a couple organizations I've been working with sepsis, Sepsis Alliance and End Sepsis. Both
Mm-hmm.
of those have so much information, and it's easy to consume. The easiest thing to do, honestly, is if something is off with you or a loved one, is just ask your care team, could it be sepsis? And
Mm,
just put that, because it might not always be front of their mind. Uh,
right.
and if you don't catch it early, the outcomes are devastating. Um, so that's my kind of call to action to everybody out there. Um, and I just want to say thanks for the opportunity to sharing my family's stories the best way I can honor them going forward. So thank you for allowing me to do that.
Thank you, and thank you for sharing your authentic self. Sometimes people are like try to hold back, but I appreciate that you shared yourself with us today. And I know that you will continue to do so, but thank you so much. I really wanted, not I, but we at Push really wanted our audience to hear your story, know about Krystal, about Charlotte, about James, because our goal really is we want to save lives. So thank you again for being willing to do so.
Thank you.
So thank you everyone for watching. We appreciate you taking the time out on a Friday afternoon to watch. We hope that the information that you learned today will help you to be mindful and to be aware. If you have family members that are pregnant, or that you be looking out for the signs for sepsis. because we, like we said, and I'm gonna say it again, I'm gonna keep saying it, that we want mama and baby to go home safely. And as I log out, I like to honor um, and say Krystal's name, Charlotte's name, James's name, and I dedicate this live to my baby boy who would have been 20 years old today, Alexei Londonvale. Thank you guys.